When I'm hosting a get-together, whether it's around the holidays or just any time of year, I like to pick recipes that are kind of in that sweet spot between absolutely mind-blowingly impressive and easy to make. This chicken and chorizo pot pie fits squarely under that umbrella. It is so flavorful, so beautiful, but it's really easy, especially because I use a couple of shortcuts. I started by browning the chorizo, and to that I'm gonna add a bag of frozen vegetables. This is a great shortcut. It saves you time having to chop the veggies. Also, I don't need a lot of veggies because this is a very rich pot pie in a slightly smaller skillet. So if I cut into a yellow, green, and red bell pepper and a whole onion, I'd have a bunch of veggies left over. So the bag of frozen vegetables is really a great trick, and once they're cooked into the mix, you don't even know they were frozen. All right, so that chorizo was so hot. These veggies are already starting to really cook, so I'm gonna give them a couple more minutes until they're super hot and sizzling. That did not take long at all. Now I wanna thicken the gravy of the pot pie, so I'm gonna sprinkle over some flour just all over the veggies and chorizo, and then I'll give it a stir just to give that flour a little chance to heat up and cook. I would say chicken pot pie to me is such a great thing to make when you are cooking for people or guests. You know, it's one of those things that you can easily buy frozen, but a lot of people don't routinely make their own chicken pot pie. And I just think a homemade chicken pot pie is impressive just by itself. It is the definition of impressive, in my world anyway. Okay, the flour has had a chance to cook, so for the liquid, I'm gonna add some chicken broth and some heavy cream, which is gonna make the chicken pot pie gravy so rich and beautiful. Now I'll just cook this mixture until it bubbles up and gets nice and thick. It'll take about 2 minutes. Okay, look at this bubbly mixture. It is really bubbling away, and the color of this sauce slash gravy is so nice. All right, couple more things. This is chicken chorizo pot pie. So I have some rotisserie chicken, which is the other shortcut I am using for this pot pie. Of course, you can cook your own chicken. You can use chicken that you have in the freezer. I think a store-bought rotisserie chicken is one of the very best shortcuts in the world. Once you put it in the casserole or soup or stew that you're making, nobody will know that you didn't cook that chicken yourself. So after the chicken comes a can of diced green chilies, and I'm gonna go ahead and add salt and pepper, even though the chorizo is plenty salty. Just add a little more, and then stir this together. As you can tell, I am kind of filling up this skillet, but that is intentional. I'll show you why in just a little bit. All right, this filling looks incredible. So I'm gonna head over to the countertop to start working on the crust, and I'll let the filling just sit and slightly cool. So I have actually a homemade crust that I made, and it's been in my freezer, so I let it thaw out just a little bit, but you can totally use store-bought crust. So I've floured the surface and the top, so I'm just kind of rolling it out, and I wanna get just a little bit larger than the iron skillet that the pot pie will bake in. Sometimes when I make homemade pie crust and pop it in the freezer, I'll actually roll it out halfway too, and that can speed things along. It's already kind of halfway rolled out when you're ready to use it. Shortcuts and standby ingredients and make-ahead ingredients are my life. Okay, I think this size is looking good. So before I put this on the pot pie, I'm actually gonna grab some pepper jack cheese. This is kind of a variation of a pot pie. So this isn't something I would normally do with my regular pot pie, but the rules are out the window with this one. Once I added chorizo to the mix, it was like, we're gonna have some fun with this. All right, and then the crust goes on, And if it's the right size, it should just kind of settle down. You can sort of press it down so that it's even with the rim of the skillet. That looks amazing. And then I want to brush the top with a beaten egg just to give it that beautiful kind of glossy homemade look. I'm going to get it around the rim and all over the surface. I promise this is going in the oven in just a second. But honestly, it came together so fast. Usually when I make chicken pot pie, I would cook the chicken, boil it on the stove, let it cool enough to pick the meat off the bones, and then cook broth with the bones. Golly, no wonder I love shortcuts so much. Okay, now I've got one more thing to add, but before I do that, I'm gonna cut little vents in the crust just to give it a little place to release all that steam. And then before it goes in the oven, I'm gonna top the crust with more cheese. Yes, you heard me, folks. You heard it here first. Cheese in and cheese on. Okay, now it's going into the oven. I'm gonna bake it at 425 for 20-25 minutes, and then I'll take it out and let it rest for 5, and then it'll be pot pie time. Can we take just a second to admire this thing of beauty? Oh my, the cheese on that crust, it honestly makes me want to put a little cheese on every pot pie I make. It's so inviting. So since this is a little bit of a Tex-Mex pot pie, I'm gonna sprinkle on some cilantro. And I have some more for the serving. And speaking of that, you didn't think I was gonna end this recipe without showing you what's inside of this beautiful pot pie. So, by the way, it is illegal to slice into a pot pie with a knife. You have to get a big ol' serving spoon and just break into that crust. And then, oh my gosh, it is so thick. Letting it sit for 5 minutes after you take it out of the oven is key because it just sits there and thickens and it's just part of the crust. It looks amazing. Sprinkle on some more cilantro. Ooh, check that out. Beautiful. So next time you want to make something impressive and utterly divine for the people in your life, please consider this chicken and chorizo pot pie. It is splendid.